Now, more on impeachment. Even though the vast majority of the American public, in every poll we've seen, wanted to see witnesses in the trial of Donald Trump, that's not going to happen, and that is thanks to Senate Republicans. That fact has many people saying the Senate itself is on trial in this process and it's not getting acquitted. Here is Trump's former chief of staff. I want to reference that again. The former chief of staff to this president, John Kelly, he weighed in, and I quote, "If I was advising the United States Senate, I would say, if you don't respond to 75% of the American voters and have witnesses, it's a job only half done. You open yourself up forever as a Senate that shirks its responsibilities." An opinion piece in the Washington Post, it goes even one step further, saying the Senate's reputation will be in tatters when this trial is done. Here's a portion. The reason that the framers wrote the impeachment clause into the Constitution was that they recognized the risk, even within the span of a 4-year term, of an outlier, a renegade president, and one so dangerous that they needed to take desperate measures. In such cases, impeachment isn't overturning the will of the electorate, it's effectuating the wisdom of the framers. They put their faith in checks and balances. We are left with a president unchecked and a system dangerously unbalanced. Let's bring in our guest, former Senator Byron Dorgan, Democrat from North Dakota, and a man who's been through impeachment before as he was in the Democratic leadership during the Clinton trial. Senator, you know, the last time we talked, I don't know if it was optimism, but you thought that there was an inevitability we'd hear from witnesses, and you saw in real time that not happening despite a preponderance of evidence. I'm curious if there was a moment where you didn't recognize the U.S. Senate anymore from the one you served in.
Well, I tell you what, the Senate just makes my head explode the way it's behaving. Mitch McConnell runs it with an iron fist. They all fall in line very quickly. This notion that they've said, well, we're going to acquit this president, so we don't need to hear more from witnesses who would know more of the story. Well, you know, look, the American people are also going to have a vote on whether they want to remove this president. They certainly would like to know the rest of the story, and yet the Senate has decided, well, we're going to proceed and we'll give him an acquittal. And let me make one other point, if I might. I just noticed that Senator Manchin talked about a different approach, maybe a censure of the president. Frankly, back 20 years ago during the impeachment resolution of Bill Clinton, I voted against impeachment. That was about sex and lying about sex. That's what I thought it was. I didn't think it was something that warranted impeachment. But I also was a co-sponsor of a resolution to censure the president because I did not believe his behavior was appropriate. It was very inappropriate. So we'll see what happens now as a result. My guess is Mitch McConnell wouldn't in 1,000 years allow something to be voted on that would censor this president.
No, for me, when I saw Alan Dershowitz give his legal rationale, that tortured thinking that as long as a president thinks it's in her or self-interest electorally to do something, if they believe it's for the betterment of the country that they stay in office, then it can't be a quid pro quo and it can't be an abuse of power. To me, the saddest thing was I didn't see a Republican go in the hallway and say, we've entered crazy town here. I don't agree with that. Maybe I disagree vehemently with the president's actions, but I don't agree with that rationale. Donald Trump can't do whatever he wants as long as he thinks it can help him get elected. There was a deafness. Nobody came out and said that that was a bridge too far. And that was scary to me, Senator, because we know there's no line Trump won't go to. And if Republicans think they reined him in or he'll be chagrined by what will happen this week, they have not been paying attention.
Yeah, well, look at who he has supported in the past. Alan Dershowitz, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he's the guy that went to help O.J. Simpson, right? He was a guy that went to help Jeffrey Epstein. What he said on the floor of the United States Senate is just psychobabble as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's unbelievable that he said what he said, and people should know better than that. Certainly senators should know better than that.
But what I don't get is still this. At the end of the day, Lamar Alexander, who you served with, and you may not agree with politically, but by all accounts, he's a decent man. Nobody goes to Washington to go serve fealty to anyone like a Trump. I'm not expecting that he was going to vote to impeach him. I really wasn't. But he's retiring, Senator. he doesn't have another race to run. Why wouldn't he stay a firm yes when 3/4 of the American public says, let me hear from witnesses that, by the way, we're going to hear from Bolton anyway. He's got a book coming out. And those FOIA requests are going to come out. We're going to see the documents. Why was it too hard for him and 4 Republicans to just say, fine, let's hear what the man has to say?
Well, every one of those Republicans that have voted against witnesses have undermined the interests of the American people. It's true, the decision in front of the Senate at this point is, shall we remove this president? But it's also true that in 9.5 months, the American people will have that choice. Should we remove this president? And if the Senate, if senators, Republican senators, don't feel a need to know the rest of the story or the whole story, the American people sure should demand that they have the opportunity to understand exactly what happened here. And so I think it undermines the interests of the American people going into this election this fall.
You know, I see your old colleague Lindsey Graham. We talked about it last time. You said maybe he was body snatched, but he now, I figured, lie low. Okay, this is not a proud moment here. I believe it'll be in the obits of everybody when they pass how they voted on this or not. But he now is making his primary focus getting the whistleblower in to testify before Congress. I don't get it at all. Even raw politics of it. This, if you felt you were so scared to vote this way because otherwise you were going to tick off the president and he was going to make your life miserable, I don't respect it, but I at least get it. Why keep going carrying the water when you don't even have to? I don't understand it.
I don't know. I mean, it's reckless and it's dangerous, and he should know that. I mean, I don't understand what he's trying to do or why he's trying to do it. But I would say this. The senators who have decided, look, we're with Trump, we support Trump, no matter what he does, we don't intend to impeach him or censor him, they're going to live with his bad behavior in the future. And I'll tell you what, it just starts. I mean, it goes on and on and on. He cannot shut down his bad behavior, and every one of these senators are going to live with that bad behavior, and they'll also, in many of the cases, take this vote to the grave.
And you said it last time, the one thing, if they bothered to ask you, is life goes on after you leave the Senate. This is not the only job you can have here, and you can still have your dignity, not just being one of the 100. I want to pivot. We have the Iowa caucuses tonight here, and 2 former Democratic nominees for president made it clear that Bernie Sanders is not healthy to be the standard bearer for the Democratic Party. Listen to Hillary Clinton. She said, he was in Congress for years. He had 1 senator to support him. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He got nothing done. A career politician was just baloney, and I feel so bad for the people that got sucked into it. John Kerry more directly said he's concerned that Bernie will take the party down. Do you share those concerns given the stakes of 4 more years of Trump as the primary election issue driving Democrats? They've got the wrong messenger with the wrong message if they keep going down the road with Sanders.
Look, there's only one goal as far as I'm concerned, and that's to prevent Donald Trump from having another 4 years, which I think would be a disaster for this country. So that being the most important goal in front of us, look, I think Bernie Sanders, I served with Bernie. I mean, I was in a caucus with him for a long, long time. But he's not the right person, in my judgment, to help us prevent this president from another term. I really worry very much that he and those who have chosen to follow him, who have decided, you know, we're going to tell the American people, 140 million of whom get their health care at work, that will be illegal in the future. You can't get your health care at work. I mean, so just on health care and a range of other things, Bernie is a socialist, and, you know, he's running as a democratic socialist. Good luck to him. But my hope is that we don't come out of Iowa and New Hampshire with a circumstance where people think that Bernie is going to be nominated by the convention to take on Donald Trump. I think it would be a very serious mistake. We need a different approach.
Senator Dorgan, it has been an interesting week. It will get even more surreal, I have a feeling, in the next 48 hours, but I certainly appreciate the time you made for us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, when we come back, some analysis of the Iowa caucuses. The first nominating contest of the 2020 race officially kicks off as we speak.